Namaste, everyone. So in this series of yoga, we'll do a little shorter practice, about 30 minutes. And this one will be more akin to our Yin Yoga class that allows us to really enjoy the slowing down and the less intensity that can sometimes be part of a Vinyasa yoga class. You can see the setup that we have. You can have a mat or not. Do be close to a wall. That's going to be a huge part of the support. And you can have anything from a yoga block to a pillow, a blanket. I have a yoga bolster here, a hand towel from your kitchen. Those items will help you. Many of the poses that we use in our Yin Yoga class, we use a lot of support to fill in space so that the body can relax onto that. So we're going to start in our legs up against the wall pose. You don't have to have any props for this, but you do want to have a good sturdy wall. And I do find that the easiest way to get up into this position is to actually come to a sideline position with your hips all the way up against the wall. And then we can just easily roll the legs into position. So as you get settled into this position, we'll be here for about 10 breaths. So get as close as you can, no space between the hips. And roll and slide, and you are there. Find whatever position is comfortable for your arms, for your shoulders. Feel how the heaviness of the legs is helping to decompress your low back. Notice the flow of the breath expanding from the belly up to the ribs, all the way up to the chest. This is such a wonderful pose to practice anytime that we need to rejuvenate the lower body, to help easily stretch our hamstrings, our calves. It's also a great pose to practice at the end of a very long day. And as you begin to settle into that deeper awareness of your breath, just begin to notice that pause between the inhale and the exhale. Begin to feel the shoulders sliding further away from the ears, feeling the heaviness of the head and the arms. Breathe deep. Allow each exhale to give you an opportunity to simply surrender. One of our greatest tools to help ease anxiety and stress of the mind is to have a moment of surrender. And just allow yourself to be in that space, in that time frame of where we have found ourselves at. Just finding yourself taking 3 more really deep, full inhales and exhales. If you like, when you exhale, envision that you're pulling the belly button in towards the body, helping to flatten that low back curve just a little bit more. And let's start with just a little movement through the toes. So just wiggle the toes. Begin to circle the ankles a couple times each way. And then keeping the right leg where it's at, we're just going to slide that left foot down the wall until you feel a little compression through the left side of the belly. Let the left hip turn out until you feel that there's a little stretch happening through the inner thigh. We're going to take our left hand and just gently place it to the inside of that left leg and push the leg a little further until you feel that change in that stretch at the hip. So just a little effort with the arms today. One more deep breath. And as we release, we'll send that left leg back up. Let the right knee bend. Pause as you place the right foot flat to the wall. Allow the right hip to turn out now. Notice where that first stretch is without the assistance of the hand. Place the right hand to the inside of the right thigh and exhale. Little gentle push. Stop at that point where you feel a comfortable sensation of stretch. And maybe you're noticing one side feels different than the other. Very common. One more deep breath. And exhale, release. We'll send that right leg back up the wall. Let's return that left foot to a flat position. And as you turn the hip out, we're going to place the left foot on top of the right thigh below the knee. Now, for many of you, this changes the stretch just enough that you don't have to do anything. We will not use the arms to assist in the stretch. We're going to let the right knee bend just slightly. And that alone should be enough to give you a deeper stretch into that left hip. So giving a little bit more focus now to the outside hip muscles, piriformis, some of the deeper external rotators. One more breath. And let that right leg come straight. Place that left foot up against the wall again. We move to the right side, little bend to that right knee. As the right knee rotates out, lift the right foot to rest below the left knee, so it's up onto the thigh. It's okay to help your hands adjust it a little bit. Then allow the arms to relax. The left knee will bend, the foot will slide just a little bit down the wall, and we stop again where we feel that deeper stretch coming into the right hip. The beautiful thing about practicing most of our poses on the floor or using the wall is we're fully supporting our low backs as we do this. Fully supporting the whole spine even. As we release, send that right leg up. And we're going to take our transition down. So bend the knees a little bit. See what side you have more room on. And then just roll over to that side. Okay, so hopefully your hips feel a little looser with that first option. We're going to go right into our Sideline Warrior One. For some of you that have practiced Yin Yoga with me before, you know how to get yourself set up, so feel free to get into it. I'm going to show piece by piece how to use both your props and the wall for this one. I'm not going to change the length of my mat here. We can take that bolster, a blanket, or a nice firm pillow, and just place it a little bit away from the wall. Today I'm going to start lying on my left side, so it's actually going to be the right side of my body that will feel the stretch. You will also need another object like another pillow or a yoga block, and you're going to place that as far away from the wall in between the bolster and the wall. So the block will be for your head, while the bolster is going to support the side of our torso. Do be mindful of how the bottom shoulder feels. If you're practicing on a hard floor, you may want another prop there. So I'm going to lay on my left side, and I have brought the bolster right up against my thigh, so there's no space there. I'm going to start making sure that I'm close enough to the wall, and I'm going to push my right leg straight. I can see I'm a little too close, so I'm going to slide myself a little further away until my right leg is fully straight. My foot has full contact into the wall. From here, I'm going to drop my left shoulder down and place my head onto that block. I want to feel fully supported. No tension in that right shoulder. Nothing's happening with the bottom arm. It's just relaxing there. Inhale, let that right arm come up, and we'll take just a few shoulder movements here. Just kind of circling. The circles can be small, medium, or large. And then reverse. Just go in the opposite direction a few times. With the next inhale, we're going to reach that right arm as far overhead as we can. Make sure that your hand can touch the ground or the floor. If it cannot, you can grab another prop to help it. And so we're going to hold this side for about 5 to 8 breaths. If you want to change the stretch in the hip, just begin to slide that right foot a little further back. Just like how we would be standing in our Warrior One position, a little bit of a lunge position. The only difference here is we're lying down. Notice how the breath helps to create that space and that long stretch between the right arm all the way down to the right foot. Just taking 2 more deep, long inhales and exhales. And with that next inhale, let's sweep that right arm back up again. Let's come back to those circles. Feel free to make them as large or small as your shoulder is allowing today. Go ahead and reverse. And then let that right arm come down. Return that right knee back to greet your left leg. And give a little push of the body up. Let's take a child's pose before we come to the other side. You can still use your prop if you like. We'll turn to sit towards the heels, and the hands and the head can now rest onto that bolster if you like. With your next inhale, we'll slide the right hip down. So again, make sure that there's no space between the thigh and the bolster. Push that left leg out, get good contact with the wall. Right arm drops between the block or whatever prop is going to support your head. Let the head come down. Left arm coming up. We'll start with those shoulder circles again. And make sure that you are moving from the shoulder versus just the wrist. And let's reverse a couple times in this direction. And inhale, sweep the left arm high, float it as far overhead until your hand or your fingertips can touch the ground. They can't touch the ground, place another object there. Now, if the arm straight overhead feels pinchy in the shoulder, you can always walk it a little bit in a diagonal. So like between your bottom arm and where the head is. That does take the pinch out of the shoulder if you need it. And now just noticing that stretch that we're feeling on the left side. Maybe it's more intense in the low back or the hip, or maybe the intensity of the stretch is felt along the rib or the shoulder. Breathe deep. Allow that breath to help you create space, and even giving some benefit to a very important muscle here, which is our diaphragm. Our diaphragm is what helps us to take these deep, full breaths. With that next inhale, let's sweep the left arm back up again. We'll come back to a couple circles, a few times one way. And then reverse. And as we drop the left arm down, float that left knee to greet the right. Lift the body up. Let's take that child's pose again. Now when you sit back, your knees can be close. You can also separate the knees a little bit wider. Feel free to even, if you're working with a traditional yoga bolster, you can move it close to you. And again, that block can come in to support your head. Continue with a couple more deep breaths. Child's pose is a really great soothing posture, not just for the hips and for the low back, but also for the brain and our nervous system. One more deep breath. Slowly walk the hands up. You can take your props off to the side, and as we come seated, we're going to sit as close as we can to the wall again. And let's start with butterfly. So feet will come together. If you are assisting the legs to come in, make sure that you're not pulling them in too close. Sometimes that can create limitation here in the hips. If you need extra support, you can also put another blanket or 2 blankets underneath the knees. And most importantly, if you're here and your knees are really higher up than your hips, you do need to sit elevated. So I'm just going to show the option with the bolster. You'll be able to see the difference of where my hips are now. So my hips are just naturally even more open here. And we can stay upright, just focusing on lots of length and space in the spine. Shoulders continue to drop, easing away from the ears, melting any tension in that upper body. If you like the deeper back stretch, we can begin to walk the hands forward, letting the head drop. You can even use your kitchen chair to rest the head upon. I'm not going to show that one today, but just know it's very soothing to have the head supported in these forward bends. Let's take 3 more deep inhales and exhales. Honoring where our body wants to be today. Never forcing the stretch. Letting the breath guide us there. As you feel that next inhale, let's walk the hands on up. And so we're going to do a seated twist using the wall. It'll be a little different variation than maybe what you're used to in your seated twist. We will use the wall to support our hands. You don't need to be elevated for this posture. we sit, we're going to bring our body relatively close. Keep just a tiny bit of space. And the leg that's closest to the wall, that's the one that we're going to bend and bring close to us. If it's difficult for you to sit up tall or to breathe comfortably with the knee to the chest, scoot yourself just a little bit away from the wall and then let that knee drop out. So either one will work. We will be facing the wall when we take this twist. The arm that's closest, reach it up, turn slightly, bring your hand to the wall. You should notice a little bit of a pec stretch already here. Take another deep breath in, reach the opposite arm forward, and now push the hand that's already into the wall. Push, begin to turn, placing both hands to the wall. It's a very strong twist for one side of the body. We'll take 3 more deep breaths. If we like, look over that back shoulder. As we inhale, reach both arms up. We'll take head to knee pose, reaching towards the straight leg, head and hands dropping down. And don't worry, there's nothing special about touching the foot, but if you do want to create a deeper stretch into your calf, you can take that yoga belt or just a towel and wrap it around the toes. One more deep breath. As we release, walk the hands up. We simply just got to turn the body so that the opposite leg will be close to the wall. We have our same options. We can have the foot flat of the leg that's closest to the wall, or scoot yourself a little bit away and let the knee drop out. The hand that's closest to the wall, will reach it up, pull the arm back so that you feel that upper shoulder active. Inhale, reach your other arm forward. The hand that's touching the wall, go ahead and push it into the wall. Guide the opposite hand there and either look to the wall again or turn and look over the back shoulder. We'll hold for 5 breaths. As we release, inhale, arms can lengthen up. We take head to knee pose down the opposite leg. And again, feel free if you want to work with that towel. If you lasso it around the foot and just pull the toes slightly towards you, you'll feel a deeper stretch into the calf. Just a couple more breaths. And inhale, release. As we come on up, let's take a moment just to come to a seated position. Cross-legged is fine. Legs, for some people, this just is not comfortable or doable. So a little straddle position is also fine. Wherever you can sit up tall, if you want to bring your back against the wall, perfectly fine. We'll do one last little side stretch before we open the front of our hips. So let's take our right hand and just let it relax right alongside you. Lean back into the wall if you are against that wall. Allow the left arm to draw up, and we're going to walk the right fingers out as we lean over, stopping at that point where we have a nice stretch again through the left side of the torso. If your arm gets tired, you can bend the elbow and just let the forearm rest to the head. There's a little support that's coming from the right arm, but just make sure that your shoulders relax here. And I will say this, if you're in the straddle position versus the cross-legged position, the stretch feels very different in that left hip. So always know that you can play with these options, these variations. We'll take 2 more deep breaths. The right arm is going to give a little effort, so push to that right arm, reach that left arm up. Walk the left hand out, inhale, lengthen that right arm up. Come out to where you have a comfortable depth of that stretch. Find the option that feels best. Right arm can stay straight, or we let the arm rest to the head. And if looking straight forward or up is bothersome, just turn the head to look down to the floor. Breathe deep. Visualize that you're sending the breath into that region, that muscle, that joint that you're feeling the most sensation right now. One more really deep, full breath. Give a little effort with that left arm, push the body up, and the right arm comes down. So for our last pose, before we come into our final relaxation, you can either choose to use your yoga block. Preferably we use the block in this height versus this height. We're going to work with a restorative bridge pose. The block is firmer. It's a little harder for the sacroiliac joint. So you can also go back to your bolster or a couple blankets. We'll start by lying on our back with our knees bent. If you're working with the block, keep it close by you. If you're working with those pillows, you can kind of guesstimate where that will be. As you lie down onto it, the hips will be a little elevated already if you're using the blankets. To come up into restorative bridge, we lift the hips and we tuck that block underneath the heaviest portion of our hips. So make sure that you're not in the low back curve. You want to be below that, right on that flat sacral bone. The nice thing about restorative bridge is your arms don't really have to do anything. You can lay them overhead. You can relax them to the side. And so for many of you, this is a different sensation. We're stretching the muscles that attach to the inside of the sacrum right now. Because we have different depths to our flexibility, we can also modify by extending one or both legs. Both legs, for some of you, can feel pretty intense. If the arms are overhead and both legs are reaching away, it's a little bit deeper of a stretch. Wherever you are at, let's take 5 more breaths. Focus on the exhale, hugging the navel center in towards the body. If you're choosing the straight leg option, make sure that your heels at least have a contact point. Try to avoid letting the hips roll open. Feel just a little activity of the legs, staying relatively hip distance apart. Last couple breaths, breathe deep. Now, if you're in the variation of the full length of the arms and legs, pull the arms down, bend one knee at a time as you walk your feet back. We come right back into that restorative bridge pose.
Little effort, push the hips up, take the block out, and just let your hips come down without taking the knees back into the chest. So just return to where that lumbar spine can be very relaxed. We're going to return back to either legs up against the wall pose, or you can come to your traditional Shavasana. Legs can extend out. You can also tuck a prop underneath the knees like a blanket or a bolster. If you are going to come back to legs up against the wall pose, give yourself a couple minutes to get yourself situated there. You can also choose to bring a hand towel to cover over the eyes or the ears. And once you have settled in, just quietly return your awareness back to the flow of the inhale and the exhale. Feel how the eyes settle deeply behind the eyelids. Take a moment to gently swallow to relax the tongue and the throat. Begin to notice the gentle beating of your own heart. And as we pause to give ourselves a moment of silence, of stillness, or just simple self-care, let us be reminded that we are our best caretakers. Taking time to breathe, to exercise, to eat healthy, to drink plenty of water. All of these small efforts accumulate day by day, hour by hour. And just know that your bodies are always wanting to return back to a state of greater health. Your bodies thank you. Our minds have built a stronger connection to what we need in this moment. May all of you be healthy, may all of you be well, and may all of you be happy. Namaste.